Hey now folks, today we are taking a look at Hunters of Arcfall from Tau Leader Games. Now, this is a light dice chucking game. The theme is that you are a group of bounty hunters on a sci-fi futuristic world, and the inhabitants of that world have enlisted your aid and put out bounties for these rampaging monsters who are just making life miserable for everybody. So you're going to use the dice and you're going to use your special hunter power to go across the planet and take these monsters as bounties that you capture and claim, and you get victory points, and also if you use the optional item expansion, you get items, or you get money to buy items that could help you out on the rest of your journey. The first person to get to a certain amount of points is the winner. You'll finish out the rounds. This actually is very reminiscent of Martian dice, zombie dice, dungeon roll, basically any kind of push your luck light dice game. But is there enough here to differentiate this game from those games? Let's take a look, then we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think. Hunters of Arcfall is a competitive game for 2 to 6 players, and the very first thing you're going to do is choose one of these hunter cards. You can do it randomly, you can pass them around and have everyone choose whichever one they want. It's up to you. They all have the same basic setup on them. You're going to have the name and their little title up here. Everyone has the same amount of little health boxes here, healthy, weak, and critical. Underneath you'll have some very, very tiny flavor text, and then just as tiny text, the very last line will be the actual special ability of the character in question. So we have Luna Moonstorm here, who can turn all wounds into hits and all hits into wounds. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now, but I'll explain a bit more about all the special abilities in a minute. You have Admiral Addis, who can, if you would lose your captured bounties for any reason, you can choose instead to keep one. You've got Tony and Eric 003. You can reroll all wounds. You've got Sev here, a little robot who can reroll all available dice. Balandar, who can heal all wounds for free. Madeline, who can reroll any number of dice equal to your current fame, and so on and so forth. And you can use your special ability once on your turn. Now, once you've got your hunter all set up, then it is time to decide who's going to be the first player. And there is a little first player marker somewhere over here that I can't quite find at the moment. But once you've done that, then it is time to hunt. So the goal of this game is to capture these bounty cards, which are all different, representing different monsters here, and try to have the most victory points. Now, you'll set a cap at the beginning. You can set whatever cap you want, but they recommend that for, I think, up to 3 players, you set the cap at 15 points, and for up to 6 players, you set it at 20 points. So whoever gets that amount of points is going to be the winner, although you do finish out the round, so it's possible that someone will surpass you. The different bounty cards, like I said, you'll decide if you're going to go on a bounty or not. You'll flip over the top card. Most of them are monsters like this. So we have the symbiote here. Up in the top corner, we have the star, or the fame points, the victory points, which actually are going to help you to win the game. Above that is money, which is fortune tokens, which are little tokens that you can get once you actually claim this bounty, and that's actually an optional item expansion, which I'll get into at the end of this video, or at the end of this overview. But over here you've got a little tiny, for some of these monsters they have a tiny line of text representing their special ability. So for instance, the symbiote says that once captured, end of turn, claim all captured bounties. So you capture this guy, it just immediately ends your turn. Underneath that are these light symbols here, which tell you which kind of symbols you need on the dice in order to capture this monster. And then you have some flavor text here. So you've got the symbiote, you've got the awakened golem, who it's really hard to see, but he needs 5 hit symbols. You have the Haywire Drone, who only needs 2, but he's worth 0 fame points. Well, that's great. You have Overgrowth, which needs 6 hits, and while it's in play, hunters cannot heal. The Maverick Drone needs just 3 hits. The Thugs need 6 hits. The Enigma Corsair is the only bounty in the game that needs hits and stun symbols to take him out. The Phantom Claw is the only card that needs you to use your heal symbols and your hits for that. And the Titan is the most powerful monster in the game that requires 9 hits, but he is worth a lot of fame and money. So how does this actually work? Well, once you decide to go hunting, you'll draw the top card off the bounty deck, and then you're going to take all of these dice and you're going to roll them. And depending on what comes up on the dice determines what you do. Any misses that you roll are immediately set aside and for that current bounty. So if you roll misses, there's nothing you can do with them. They're kind of stuck off to the side. If you roll hit symbols, those are going to go on the monster, assuming that that monster requires hits, which all of them really do. So any hits that you roll, you're going to immediately put on the monster card. If you have met the threshold of the amount of hits that they need, you'll get to capture that bounty, but you haven't quite claimed it yet. I'll get to that in a moment. If you roll the stun symbols, almost all of the time, all these stun symbols mean is that you have to re-roll them. There's just that one particular monster that I showed you that needs the stun symbols actually be put on the card, but most of them don't. That's just simply telling you to re-roll them. Any wounds that you get are going to go on your hunter card. Let me grab one of the hunter cards here. You'll actually put the wound symbols on your hunter card. Now, you can take up to 3 wounds without any penalty, but once you would take your 4th or more wounds, you immediately have to retreat, you end your turn, and you lose any bounties that you captured on that turn without being able to get the points or the money for them. Now, you can prevent that. You can prevent dying by using the heal symbol dice, but you have to take all the wounds first before you can use your heal dice. So what that means is that if you roll 4 or more wounds in a turn, you're effectively dead unless you have a character special ability that lets you negate that damage. But if you manage to survive, you can take one of the heal dice, put it on your card, and remove up to 3 of the wound dice. But you can only heal up to 3 times on your turn, and the dice stay here, which means you also can't re-roll them. But your wounds also stay there until they're healed, so you can't re-roll those either. But assuming that you haven't died and that the monster hasn't been dead yet, you're going to keep rolling the dice. So let's just go through a little example here. So I'm going to roll all the dice. Okay, I got, oh, that really wasn't that great. So miss, miss, miss. All of these are just stuns, which are useless for this monster, so I'm going to have to re-roll those. I have 1 wound that I have to put on my guy, and I have 1 hit. So I'm going to just, well, why not? I'm just going to go ahead and choose to heal myself just in case. So I'll get rid of that wound. The heal die is stuck on my card. And I'll re-roll all these other dice. Oh, great. 2 more hits. A bunch of stun dice and heals. So I'll take another heal, use it, re-roll all this. And there, finally, I got another hit, another wound, unfortunately. And I have this. So I just defeated this monster. So I'll be able to take this, just put it off to the side for now. And then I'll decide to go ahead and heal this wound. I cannot heal anymore. I've up to 3 of my max. Now I decide whether I want to go ahead again. If I do go ahead, I draw the next card. I take all back the misses, but my healing markers still stay there, and I keep going. This is going to keep happening until either you die from having too many wounds or your dice pool runs out. If your dice pool runs out, you just immediately end your turn, claim all of your captured bounties, get the points. At any point, you can, as long as you haven't died, you can choose to end your turn and not go any further. Now, aside from monsters, there are some other cards in the deck that are called event cards. And event cards usually do some sort of either global effect or effect pertaining only to you, the current player. So, for instance, we have the Plasma Storm. It stays in play for 1 round, and all hunters roll 2 less dice when they're trying to claim bounties. And these all have the same tiny text as the other cards as well. The Underdog lets whoever has the least amount of fame points re-roll all their misses. The Elusive Prey, basically you draw this card, then you draw another monster, and the next monster that you draw, you attach this card to it, and it makes it 1 more hit to take out, but it is worth extra points as well, a lot of extra points. The Terraquake. The Terraquake, you draw the card, immediately ends your turn. Capture any unclaimed... capture any bounties that you have, claim them, and then you end your turn. And the Time Warp, which I'm not sure why it exists in this game, but it basically just restarts your entire turn. Put all the bounties you captured, put them back on the deck in the same order, and restart your entire turn. Woohoo. But basically, that's the game. You're going to keep going, rolling, pushing your luck, trying to capture as many monsters as you can, get as many fame points, and so on. Now, like I mentioned, there is an optional item deck that you can use. You'll shuffle up all these items, and you'll deal out 3 that players will have access to. At any point during your turn, you can use the little money chips that you got from taking out bounties and buy items. The cost is up in the corner of the card, and then more tiny text describing what they do. So, for instance, the Trip Mine says that you can basically discard this card when as soon as a new bounty is drawn, even if it's not your turn. You can immediately discard this to put 3 hits on that card, and you can capture it immediately, again, even if it's not your turn. The Hidden Cache, you can discard this to immediately reroll all the misses that you have. The Electromagnetic Pulse Beam forces another player to roll 1 less dice if they have at least 2 dice in their dice pool, and so on. There's cards that let you reroll all of your wounds, your heal markers that are on your card, things like that. That's basically the game. Keep going, trying to get as many points as you can, pushing your luck the entire way. Hunters of Arcfall is one of those games where I had the impression the entire time we were playing that this is a game I really want to like, and I feel that there is the framework of a good game here, but it's just not quite right. It's hampered by a couple of very integral design flaws that really keep the game from being more than just a very light dice chucking game. Let's start off with the fact that there's just not a lot of decision making in this game. I mean, yes, it's a push your luck game, so you have to decide at a certain point, am I going to stop, am I going to keep going? But that's really it. And what your choice about whether or not to do that is pretty obvious. First and foremost, this is a race. So if you have any kind of shots at winning, you're going to, if you think that you can even go forward just a little bit more, you should go forward. So that's pretty obvious. But really, since almost all of your dice reset after every bounty that you claim, you should always continue to go forward. However, even in that regard, even though, you can make that choice to keep going or not, the game has cards inside of the bounty deck that sort of eliminate your options. And really, the only reason I can think that these cards exist is to lengthen the game, which is even more annoying because with more players, with 5 and 6 players, this game can drag on for way too long for what it is. This game really should be played with 3 or 4 players at the most. But anyways, in that bounty deck, you have event cards, and a couple of them are really irritating. One of them, called Terraquake, just ends your turn right then and there. You don't lose the stuff that you've gained already, but just draw it and it says, your turn ends. I mean, and that's it. And remember that this game is a race, so that can seriously hamper you and effectively cripple you. You lose your entire turn. Meanwhile, the person before and after you just went on a mad dash and got like 4 different monsters. Well, if you draw that card, if that's the first card you draw, boom, you're done. Or maybe you only get 1 monster. That's happened to several people in the games that we played. Another card that has no reason to exist is one that's called like Time Warp or Time Restart or something, which essentially just means that you draw the card and reverse your entire turn. Put all the bounties you claimed back on the deck in the same order, get all your dice back, and start over again. Why? Why does that exist? It's so dumb. It's just irritating. So really, if you're going to play this, I would suggest just taking those cards out, to be honest. Now, there's the optional add-on, which is the item deck, and even with that, I feel like, it is optional, but you should play with it because you need more and more choices in this game in order to give it more meat, but even that aspect of the game is sort of unbalanced. The prices of the cards are way out of whack for their usefulness. There's one item called the Trip Mine, which is only 2,000 credits, which is very, very useful. You basically just use the card, and you get to kill a monster that takes 3 hits as soon as it's drawn. And you can do it on anyone's turn, so it's very, very useful. You can just immediately claim free points, essentially, if it requires the right number of hits. But that's only 2,000. There are other items which cost 5,000, 8,000 that are much less useful. I mean, way out of whack. Like, there's a couple of cards that just basically screw over another person's turn. Well, okay, that's great. You screw over another person's turn, but you're not getting points. It's not helping you at all. And those cards cost a lot of money. So that all seems pretty out of whack. Some of them are just not as useful as the other cards. And, but that's the only thing you have the money for, so you might as well buy them. But I had games where the items just kind of sat in front of me and I never had a chance to use them. So it was pretty underwhelming. As far as the actual turn-to-turn gameplay, aside from the cards that are actually in the game, rolling those dice, even though it can feel kind of satisfying, a lot of times, again, it doesn't feel like you have any great choices to do with those. Like, what you have to do is very obvious. And especially, since there's only, as far as I can tell, 1 monster in the bounty deck that uses the spiral stun side, which means that when you roll those are essentially just re-rolls, which feels kind of boring. I mean, it would be great if you could do something else with those. It would be great if other monsters required a different variety of symbols on them, or if maybe you could choose to use the dice for different things. So maybe you can, if you roll 2 of those spirals, you have those 2 dice count as 1 hit on a monster, but then again, it's taking 2 dice out of your pool, so you have to make that decision. But there isn't anything like that in this game. It doesn't feel that deep. And maybe it's not supposed to be deep. Again, this is a light dice-chucking game, but I don't know. I think you have a lot of different options out there in the market for this type of game, and I'm not sure that there's enough here to justify putting the investment into it, even though it's, you know, it's probably a cheap game, but as far as the time investiture, when there's so many other options, I don't know. I feel like even zombie dice, and I don't really like zombie dice that much, but even that is probably a better option than this. The rest of the game, the components are nice, the dice are nice. I like the artwork a lot. The artwork's probably the best part of this game. Although on the cards, the text on the bottom of the cards that actually describes the special ability of things is really, really small. And sometimes, especially for the monsters, the text and the little symbols telling you what symbols you need to defeat that monster are really way too light. So if you're across the table, you can't make out what it is. It can be kind of irritating. Many times I said, whoa, wait a minute. You already killed that monster. And they're like, no, you need 2 more symbols. See? And I'm like, really? And I had to look over because you cannot see those symbols that clearly. So I wish that had been done a little bit better. But the base artwork is really good. So I don't know. It's an okay game. And I really wanted to like it. And if you house rule it a bit, I think it could be a good game. But then again, you shouldn't. I'm of the mind that you should never have to house rule games. It should be kind of taken care of through playtesting. And with this game, I feel like it probably wasn't playtested enough. Definitely the item expansion was not playtested enough for balance as far as the prices. And that's too bad. I think there was a kernel of a really good game here, but it just wasn't meant to be. So, my name is Nick. That was Hunters of Arcfall. And I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.